Unaware he'd just won a $100 billion government contract, Daniel Foster stood outside his own home, stunned, as his wife locked him out of their house so she could host her lover's birthday, never imagining the quiet janitor-turned-contractor she mocked was now the man every governor, senator, and military chief wanted in their war room. But when Daniel finally walked away into the cold night with nothing but the secret of that $100 billion contract burning in his pocket, everyone inside the house would soon learn why humiliating a man they thought was powerless was the biggest mistake of their lives. If the woman he loved could throw him away for a lover on a birthday night, what would she do when she discovers the contract he signed has the power to change her destiny forever? And if Daniel was willing to walk away quietly, what was he truly planning in the shadows that would shock her and turn their entire world upside down? Daniel Foster's fingers trembled as he stood on the cracked pavement outside the house he had spent 12 years building with Lena. The porch light glowed warmly, but the inside of the house pulsed with music, laughter, clinking glasses, and unfamiliar voices drifting through the windows. He had taken a taxi straight from the government complex, still smelling faintly of disinfectant from work as a janitor, still in the same faded pants and worn jacket. Yet in his pocket lay the contract that transformed everything. $100 billion. Not a promise. Not a rumor. Not a negotiation. A fully executed, federally sealed, time-stamped $100 billion government contract awarding his small, overlooked engineering startup, born from scribbled sketches during his janitor night shifts, the largest civilian infrastructure rebuild project in state history. Daniel had expected to come home to Lena's embrace, to tell her the news slowly, to watch shock melt into pride. But the moment he stepped on the porch, she appeared behind the glass door, her expression cold enough to freeze bone. Her sequin dress glittered as she blocked the doorway. "What are you doing here?" she snapped. He blinked. This is my house. Not tonight." She glanced over her shoulder as a deep male voice shouted her name from the living room. "Evan's party is private." Evan. The name punched Daniel harder than the wind. He'd overheard whispers weeks earlier, Lena laughing too brightly on late phone calls, messages she cleared as soon as he walked in, perfume that didn't belong to her. But he had convinced himself he was paranoid, too worn down from double shifts, too tired to fight, too hopeful to suspect. "I just want to come inside," he said softly. "No," her voice sharpened. "You embarrass me in front of people, Daniel. Look at you. You're dressed like a janitor." "I am a janitor," he said, not bothering to defend himself. He had been one long before genius slipped into his hands, long before government officials realized he had designed a structural system that could outlast hurricanes and earthquakes. But Lena wasn't listening. Her fingers tightened on the door handle. "Go find somewhere else to be. I'm hosting a birthday party for a real man." Daniel's heart thudded. Guests inside laughed louder, someone shouting for Lena to stop wasting time with the loser. Her cheeks flushed, not with shame but with irritation. She shut the door. Locked it. Click. The sound buried itself into Daniel's ribs. For a moment he simply stood there, breathing cold air, staring at the home whose walls he had painted, whose kitchen he repaired twice, whose mortgage he paid even when Lena stopped working. Where family photos once lined the hallway. Where they had whispered promises they both believed would last. But something inside him did not break. Something inside him sharpened. $100 billion. A chance to reset everything. A chance to reclaim himself. He slowly turned away, stepping back into the darkness of the street. Lena didn't even watch through the window. She had already vanished back into the party, laughing as if he were nothing but dust on her shoes. A taxi rolled down the street, headlights sweeping across him. The driver slowed. "You need a ride?" Daniel hesitated. He had no destination, no plan, and no desire to go to the cheap motel where he'd spent nights when Lena threw tantrums before. But the contract in his jacket pocket felt heavier with every heartbeat. The government's signature, the embossed seal, the confirmation of funds pending immediate release. He entered the taxi. The door closed softly, unlike the slam of his own front door. As the car pulled away, Daniel looked back once. Evan, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing Daniel's cologne, had stepped onto the porch to take a phone call. He saw Daniel in the taxi but didn't flinch, didn't apologize, didn't hide. He simply smirked. Daniel's jaw tightened. Not broken. Not defeated. Not tonight. He whispered to himself, "Let them laugh. They don't know what's coming." And somewhere deep inside, something stirred that had been dormant for years. A part of him Lena had dismissed, buried, mocked into silence. A part of him that remembered he once dreamed without shame. Tonight would be the last night anyone mistook Daniel Foster for a powerless man. The following morning, Daniel awoke in a modest motel room that smelled faintly of cleaning chemicals. For a moment he forgot why he wasn't home. Then the reality returned in fast, sharp images. Lena's cold stare, the door locking, laughter echoing from behind her. Last night he barely slept, replaying everything, but now, surprisingly, he felt clearer. He reached for the government contract lying on the nightstand. Seeing the signature again still felt surreal. His name, Daniel Foster, printed beneath the words primary contractor. Every time he looked at it, layers of memory surfaced. Years ago, he had been the quiet kid from Ohio who built tiny bridges from scrap metal. Teachers called him gifted but unfocused. Life had forced him into janitorial work before he could afford engineering school. Lena had met him during those early years back when hope felt fragile. She said she loved his mind, his heart, his ambition. But slowly, as his struggle grew heavier, her admiration curdled into contempt. He remembered one night when she found him sketching earthquake-resistant modular frames on the back of an old notebook. She stared at the drawings, expression unreadable, then said, "Dreams don't pay bills, Daniel. Just get a better job." He did. He took every night shift available. He cleaned toilets while solving structural puzzles in his head, while running simulations using free software at public libraries. And eventually, one of his designs caught the attention of a deputy infrastructure director who happened to drop his wallet in a hallway Daniel was mopping. When Daniel returned it, the man noticed the equations scribbled in the margins of the cleaning logs Daniel carried everywhere. That encounter changed everything. But Lena never believed the project would go anywhere. She didn't even know he had been called to the Capitol yesterday. The motel phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number. Funds cleared. Project briefing tonight. Congratulations. Department of Civil Reconstruction. Daniel exhaled. The scale of his new authority hit him again. Hundreds of employees, dozens of subcontractors, architects, military liaisons. His vision, his invention, would rebuild cities. And Lena had thrown him out for a birthday fling. There was poetic justice somewhere in that. He showered, dressed in the same clothes as last night, and walked out into the bright morning sun. He needed a plan. Not revenge for revenge's sake, but something that restored dignity, boundaries, and consequence. As he walked toward a cafe, he received another message, from an unknown number again. A video. His thumb hovered before tapping. When the clip opened, his heart clenched. Lena. Drinking. Laughing on Evan's lap. Mocking him. The camera panned as someone shouted, "To Lena! For ditching the broke janitor. Cheers to trading up." Daniel's stomach churned. The video ended with Lena saying, "If he ever comes back, I swear I'll..." He stopped the playback. His pulse throbbed. Shame tried to creep in, but something stronger pushed it aside. He would not let humiliation define him. At the cafe, he ordered plain coffee and sat by the window. A woman across from him, a stranger, accidentally made eye contact and offered a polite smile, then frowned curiously. "Are you okay?" He forced a small nod. "Rough night." "You look like someone who just realized something important," she said gently. Daniel almost laughed. He had realized something. He had been small because he believed he had to be. Lena didn't lock out a powerless man, she locked out a man she thought would never rise. But today, rising was no longer optional. It was inevitable. His phone buzzed again, this time from the deputy director. "Need your decision on headquarters location. We'd prefer you choose somewhere personal." Personal. Daniel looked out the window toward the distant skyline, the same city where Lena humiliated him, the same streets where he had cleaned office buildings she never believed he'd step into as anything other than support staff. Maybe the headquarters needed to be close. Maybe very close. Not for vengeance. For visibility. For truth. He texted back. Location, Eastwood Heights. Breaking ground immediately. Eastwood Heights, Lena's neighborhood. The same street where she laughed him out of his own home. As he sent the message, Daniel realized something else. He didn't need to confront her yet. The truth had a way of traveling. And soon, the entire city would know his name, not as a janitor but as the mastermind behind a $100 billion government rebuild contract. But what would Lena do when construction crews began filling her street? When reporters swarmed? When the mayor arrived? When she discovered the project director she mocked was the husband she locked out? Curiosity rippled through Daniel's chest. Not bitterness, anticipation. He whispered, "Let the truth introduce itself." And with that, the transformation quietly began. 3 days later, Eastwood Heights roared with machinery. Neighbors peered through curtains as sleek black SUVs rolled down the street. News vans parked along sidewalks. Drones hovered overhead. The mayor's staff directed traffic while uniformed officers cordoned off areas for the groundbreaking. Lena, still in her robe, yanked open her window blinds and froze. What on earth? She stepped onto the porch, phone in hand, confusion tightening her face. Evan emerged behind her, looking half awake and irritated. Why's there construction here? Who authorized this? I don't know, she snapped. Let me check the community group chat. She posted quickly. Lena, does anyone know why there's government equipment outside my house? Replies flooded in. Trisha, it's for the $100 billion infrastructure contract. Didn't you hear? The project director chose your street for the main headquarters. Lena, what? Why here? Who is he? The typing bubbles popped up. Trisha, his name's Daniel Foster. The news said he's some genius who worked his way up from nothing. They're calling him the future of American infrastructure. Lena felt the blood drain from her face. Daniel Foster. She reread the name as if her eyes were tricking her. Her hand trembled. That can't be him, she whispered. That can't be my Daniel. Evan frowned. Wait, your husband's name is Daniel Foster. Ex-husband, she corrected sharply, though the word felt like glass in her mouth. They stepped farther outside as a convoy of vehicles stopped directly across from her yard. Several government officials exited, shaking hands, talking, pointing to architectural plans. And then, from the last SUV, Daniel stepped out. But not the Daniel she remembered. This Daniel wore a crisp tailored suit, nothing flashy but undeniably expensive. His hair was neatly cut, his posture straighter, his expression firm. He spoke with purpose to the officials around him, nodding with confidence she'd never seen. The man she locked out looked transformative, unrecognizable, powerful. Daniel turned, scanning the area. His eyes brushed past her, but not a flinch, not a pause, not even acknowledgement. It was as if she didn't exist. The officials followed him like shadows. Cameras clicked. A reporter shouted his name. Mr. Foster. How does it feel to be the youngest civilian contractor to secure a $100 billion government deal? Lena's knees weakened. Her grip tightened on the porch rail. She remembered the laughter, the insults, the birthday party. Evan's arm around her waist. Her voice calling Daniel a loser, in front of everyone. Evan cursed softly. You didn't tell me he was? I didn't know, she hissed. He was just a janitor. A city councilwoman approached Daniel. We've arranged the temporary office to be set up on this street. The full headquarters will be constructed right across from, she pointed, to Lena's house. Daniel looked at the empty plot of land across the street, the one that had been up for sale for years. Good, he said. Let's begin immediately. Lena's breath hitched. He had chosen her street. Her view. Her doorstep. The councilwoman continued, the mayor will arrive within the hour for the ceremonial signing. Daniel nodded, completely unfazed. A reporter shouted, Is it true your wife supported you through the process? He didn't blink, didn't stutter, didn't soften. He simply said, I don't discuss personal matters. But the slight emphasis on personal stung Lena like electric shock. The crowd murmured. Cameras flashed. Officials gestured with admiration. Daniel reviewed blueprints she once mocked as scribbles going nowhere. Her heartbeat hammered loudly, drowning the construction noise. The weight of reality crushed her pride. Her husband, no, the man she discarded, the man she humiliated, the man she locked out, the man she replaced, was now worth more in government contracts than she could comprehend. And he wasn't done. Not even close. As she watched him step onto a temporary stage, something inside Lena cracked for the first time. Regret, sharp and suffocating. Evan muttered, we should go inside. Reporters are looking. But Lena couldn't move. She could only stare at the man she threw away, wondering what he would do next, and how much worse the shock could become. The mayor arrived with motorcade fanfare, smiling broadly as he shook Daniel's hand. Microphones lined the temporary platform. Neighbors gathered, whispering. Reporters broadcast live. Lena stood frozen behind her gate, watching everything unravel inch by inch. Daniel spoke calmly, professionally, capturing the crowd with ease. This project will bring thousands of jobs, modern infrastructure, and disaster-resistant frameworks to our state. It's an honor to lead this contract. Applause thundered. But through the noise, Lena's chest tightened with dread. Daniel had transformed so completely she barely recognized him, not physically but internally. Something stronger lived behind his eyes. A quiet storm. A controlled power. After the mayor finished speaking, Daniel stepped off the stage. Officials swarmed him again. But this time, for the first moment since arriving, Daniel glanced toward Lena. The eye contact lasted 3 seconds. 3 long, unblinking, merciless seconds. Lena's breath faltered. That look wasn't hatred. It wasn't anger. It wasn't pain. It was clarity. The look of a man who had outgrown the chains once wrapped around him. He turned away before she could speak. "Daniel," she whispered, voice cracking, but he was already walking. She slipped through her gate and approached cautiously. Reporters swirled around, curious. When Daniel finally paused near a black SUV, Lena stepped forward. "Daniel, please, can we talk?" He didn't face her. Instead, he finished a quiet instruction to one of his project managers before turning slightly in her direction. "Lena, there's nothing to talk about." Her throat tightened. I made a mistake." "Yes," he said simply. She blinked fast, tears gathering. "I didn't know about the contract." "That's the point," he replied evenly. "You didn't care to know anything." The words hit her harder than any shouted insult could. "Daniel, I'm sorry. I panicked. I wasn't myself. I shouldn't have." "Locked me out," he finished. "To celebrate your lover's birthday?" A gasp rippled through nearby bystanders. Evan, watching from the porch, stiffened. Lena's voice cracked. "Please don't do this here." Daniel stepped closer, lowering his voice but not his resolve. "Lena, I didn't change to impress you. I changed because life demanded it. The contract didn't make me who I am. It only revealed what you never saw." Tears streamed down her cheeks. For the first time, she truly understood she no longer had a place in his world, and worse, she had thrown away her place when he needed her most. "Daniel, can we fix this?" she pleaded. "Can we start over?" He looked at her with a calm she couldn't interpret, sadness, perhaps, or acceptance, or finality. "No," he said, steady and firm. "Some doors, once closed, shouldn't be reopened." She covered her mouth as a sob escaped. Reporters subtly recorded everything. Daniel stepped back, nodding to his team. "We're done here." But before he entered the SUV, he paused and delivered the final blow, not cruelly but truthfully. "Lena, the day you locked me out was the day you locked yourself out of my future." He entered the vehicle. The door shut gently, unlike the slam she had given him. As the convoy pulled away, Lena collapsed onto the curb, surrounded by the consequences she created with her own hands. Evan muttered, "Well, I'm not dealing with this," and walked away, leaving her completely alone. The construction crew resumed their work. The headquarters would rise across from her house, brick by brick, beam by beam, a permanent reminder of what she lost. And Daniel? He didn't look back again. Not once. He had become the man he was always meant to be. And the shock of that truth was something Lena would carry for the rest of her life.